This is George Kittle. Welcome to the Wrestling Collectors. Woo!
For 5 years, I've run WrestlingForSale.com, the world's first wrestling merchandise marketplace. I've bought and sold close to 10,000 vintage wrestling collectibles. Along the way, I've had the privilege of meeting some of the world's most passionate collectors. Call them psychos, call them hoarders. Whatever you call them, join me as I explore their never-before-seen piles of gold. These historians and wrestling archivists all strive for one thing, the Holy Grail. I'm your host, Ted Hirsch, and this is the Wrestling Collectors.
Alright, first up on this week's episode, we have Sheena Phelps. She's the host of the Chick Foley podcast. Her and her heel husband have an incredible wrestling collection made up of rare toys, memorabilia, and vintage clothing. Also, one of the great Shockline collections out there. In addition, Sheena is one of the biggest Bret Hart fans this side of the Canadian border. I'm here with Sheena Phelps, aka Chick Foley. The honor is all mine. You know,
No.
this is a big deal for me to meet you.
No, this is huge for me. I remember when I first started Chick Foley, and I don't know how I somehow came across your account on. I mean, our Explore page wasn't even a thing back then, I don't think. And I just remember coming across Wrestling for Sale, and I was like, oh my God, this guy is like a legend. How does he have all of these amazing things? And then, of course, I listened to another podcast, Cheap Heat, and they would always bring up Wrestling for Sale. And I'm like, dude, this guy is insane, you know.
I'm very, very, very excited to see your collection and to hear you talk about it. A lot of the guests so far have been primarily vintage clothing, so I'm excited to mix it up. I'm excited for you to showcase what you have and what you're passionate about. So to start it off, what kind of items do you like to collect?
I mean, it's primarily action figures, you know. I mean, we have a pretty well-rounded wrestling collection, you know, title belts, ringside chairs, artwork, autographs. We do have some vintage clothing and merch and stuff, but a majority of the collection is definitely action figure based. So we definitely have a huge Chalkline wrestling jacket collection, which is super awesome. My husband is so into the basketball shorts. I keep telling him, I'm like, is this all you're going to wear for the rest of your life? You know, how many pairs is too many? But he loves the shorts. And we found Chalkline. We had a vintage, we actually, speaking of collecting, had a vintage NFL Chalkline collection. So that's how we kind of connected with them online. Before they even had the WWE license, we kind of connected with them from our vintage jacket collection. So yeah, they've been super awesome. Just great people over there.
Yeah. I think I've lived in the shorts for all of COVID. It's just like
they're the perfect pandemic fit.
I have my Monday pair. I have my, I think I wear Rick Rude's on Mondays.
Yeah.
I transition into, my NWO set, and it's
yeah. You just need to write in the tags. Like when you were a kid, you had the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday undies. You need to just write in the tags these are your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday pants. So my dad, I watched wrestling. I mean, I don't even really have a memory of when I started watching wrestling, but I would say late golden era windows really when I developed I really developed my fanhood in the new gen, but I was watching it with my dad. Hulkamania was running wild and all that kind of stuff. Then I had my heyday in the Attitude Era, but it all started because my dad watched wrestling. He was a big wrestling fan. WWF magazines in their little magazine holders by his bedstand. So that's really kind of where I developed my love for it because my dad always watched it.
I'm pretty much in the same boat, sitting down in the living room with my dad. He's watching it. I think it's 1988. Actually, I know exactly when it started for me. It was 1988 on my birthday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But so is there a match that really sucked you in that made you a fan?
So my first vivid memory of wrestling was WrestleMania 6. That's the first time I ever remember watching wrestling. It was, the Ultimate Challenge, Hogan versus Warrior. I think my 5-year-old self just couldn't picture a world in which one of these guys was going to lose. I couldn't wrap my mind around that. And Hogan was my dad's favorite wrestler. So I think that's really kind of why it stuck with me, is because I was just oh my God, who put this together? These guys are going to fight. I can't believe this, So yeah, that match was larger than life and definitely stuck with me.
So when you were a kid, did you have a lot of toys?
Yeah, I think back then it was a little bit different because like, my parents bought me toys and they were all like girly toys, like dolls and, babies and stuff like that. And it wasn't until I grew up in a family of predominantly boy cousins. I had a brother. I was the only girl in my family for a really, really long time. So it was only natural for me to be around like, boy toys, if you will. So lots of wrestling figures, GI Joes, turtles, like all of that sort of thing. And I didn't want to be by myself because we have a big family, we're super close. So I was always with my cousins. So I wasn't going to be over here playing with Polly Pocket while they are like over, kicking it with their GI Joes and their wrestling figures. So I always just jumped in with them. And I think that's just kind of where I got my love for toys, like action figures and stuff.
Right. So when did you start collecting the toys?
Our recent collection, though, our current collection started in 2014. So that's when we kind of got back into the product. We had that like dark period of our fandom where, we just kind of got out of it, went to college, the whole thing, and then got out of it for a little while. And then the WWE network came back and we started a new like collection in 2014. So we started with Jack's Classic Superstars. That's what we thought we were going to collect, go back and get like all of our old favorites, the legends and stuff. But then we got our hands on a Mattel Elite, which was like kind of game changing because I was like, we had seen them in the package and stuff, but we were like, it's fine. Like, we're not going to jump on the Mattel bandwagon. And then once we got it, it's obviously escalated pretty quickly. We love the Mattel line.
What makes you want to keep compiling this collection, and what is driving you at this point?
So I think with any collection, it's just, it kind of just deepens your, your love for the hobby. I mean, like you said, you have vintage clothing and that's kind of how you connect to, the product and things like that. And for us, it's like toys and there's so much that you can do. Obviously we just kind of dabble. We love to display them. We love to look at them. We, take pictures and stuff. We have an arena set up that we do we have Instagram Championship Wrestling. You can search hashtag Instagram Championship Wrestling and see stuff that we've done through the years. Very, very minor league stuff compared to like a lot of the things that are out there, but I love to follow other collectors and just see what they do with the toys and like the creativity. I mean, people are doing animation, they're doing like, photos. I mean, they're booking these matches, there's fantasy fed. So with action figures specifically, you can create the matches that you wish you had seen, I mean, like Seth Rollins versus Bret Hart would be like a dream match for me, right? Obviously it would never happen in the real world, but if you have figures, you can book that in your figure federation and it's just super fun. I mean, the possibilities are endless. The creativity is just insane. And the fact that we live in the internet era where we have social media and Instagram where we can see all of that is just amazing. Because I mean, people have probably been doing this like as long as toys and stuff have been around with the technology that they have, based on the technology they have. But I mean, now we're able to just like tap in and type in a hashtag and find these people,
Yeah.
I mean, we're downsizing our collection currently at our highest, we had over 800 figures just elite, just like Mattel figures, not just elites, but we had some basics mixed in there, but like Mattel figures over 800. And man, we collect loose, which is already like a space hog. I can't imagine like people that collect MOC or mint on card, for anybody who's watching this and doesn't know, like if you keep them in the box, it's called MOC. I don't know how people collect that way because I don't know how you have the storage to just stack these like boxes in your home. But yeah, we're downsizing a little bit, but it's just for space, man. Like, it's just like, Jesus, they're not slowing down the line anytime soon. So, I mean, if we're going to be completionists, we're going to have to buy a bigger house. Yeah. So as far as collectibles, I have some favorite figures, and I have some collectibles here too that are just like, personally my favorite. They don't really have, I mean, not that their value is like super high or anything like that, but just personally to me, like they're my favorite for different reasons. But my first one is this ringside exclusive pink and black attack Bret Hart from the '93 Rumble. Like this look, I mean, it's just amazing. Obviously there's a defining moments figure that I also really love that's like, just a hair below this one with the black jacket, Hart Foundation style. But seeing the Hitman come out in this pink jacket, like I mean, my little head just exploded. Like I could not believe. I'm like, oh my God. And paint splatter, I'm a sucker for paint splatter, and the Hitman wears paint splatter better than anyone. And we actually had, so it comes with this like little rubber clamshell jacket. But I love this figure so much that we commissioned this person who creates figure clothing. Like she is like insanely talented. Again, here's these people on Instagram that you just run across, and they're like insanely talented. Like, who would have known that there was a lady out there sewing little tiny wrestling gear, you know? And it's a soft goods jacket. I mean, she put like, you know, the crystallized hearts, the fringe and everything. And then we touched him up and got him a little sticker for his glasses, because the original ringside, the way it came, it was like a flat pink. And I'm like, dude, if he doesn't have hologram glasses, like, you know, he's not the Hitman, you know. So we had to church him up a little bit. And next, it's gonna be very Hitman centric. If you don't know, Brett is my favorite wrestler. If you follow me in any capacity at all on any of my platforms, you're gonna know, like, I ride and die with the Hitman.
And I
so, you do too. Good.
I love the guy.
Yeah, he's the best. I mean, you just can't argue. You can't make me believe otherwise. You know what I mean? Like, you can give me all the talking points, all the facts, but you're not going to change my mind that the Hitman is the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. The next is this Hasbro. Obviously, if you collected Hasbro, you know these little guys. I mean, these just hit me right in the feel spot, because this is what we had in like my generation. Like, super cool, which is so funny now, because I mean, the figures are so highly articulated, they have so much detail. And I remember when these came out, I mean, they have like, you know, snap actions and stuff, and you're just like, you thought these were like the best thing that you had ever seen. So this one is just really special because I love this Bret Hart Hasbro. It hits me right in the feel spot. I actually took this when I had my son. This was in the hospital. Where, like, you know, I went to the birthing center. I took this, you know, like everything you read, like, make it homey, like put your little lights up. And then, you know, the midwives would come in. They'd be like, you have like action figures over here, like toys? I'm like, yes. It just makes me feel comfortable. It puts me in my zen, you know? So I had this Bret Hart Hasbro, this exact one. So I will always keep this because it was there the day. My Brett, and my son's name is Brett with one T, like supposed to be spelled. Yeah. So the next Hitman item is these, my autographed shades. I met the Hitman. It was WrestleMania 31 weekend. He was doing WrestleCon. This was actually my first ever WrestleMania period. So, I mean, I was just like, I was living my best life. I was like, oh my God, you know, I grew up in like a lower middle class family. Like, we weren't going to WrestleMania, you know, like a lot of events didn't come to my small town. So I didn't get to go to a lot of wrestling shows. So when, you know, the husband and I, it was just kind of a bucket list item. We're like, we're going to freaking WrestleMania and we're going to meet Bret Hart. So got these shades. I was wearing them when I did the meet and greet. Like, we're not autograph people. We're mainly like picture people. And I was wearing the shades, and the Hitman, I was just like, got my picture with him. I'm like, insides are screaming because I'm sitting next to the Hitman, but I'm trying to be like cool, you know, but I get starstruck really super easily. Like, I'm just like, this is Bret Hart. And then he's like, you know, do you want me to sign your shades? And I think I was just like turned like pale white. And I was like, yeah, of course I do, you know. So he signed my shades, told me I had a pretty name, and like, these are like my favorite item. I thought I lost them on the way moving from Hawaii to Virginia, and I was devastated, but I found them. So the next on the Hitman list. Okay, so this you'll recognize this. Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, this actually came from a shop that you may be familiar with, Wrestling for Sale. But this isn't just any Bret Hart denim jacket off of a merch stand, you know, like, this is legit, came from like Bret Hart's basement or somewhere. It like got dug up by his son Blade and somehow made them into Ted's hands, and Ted got to sell them. And I knew when I saw it, I was like, I have to have this. I mean, first of all, the denim jacket is amazing, and then all the details, and I can't even handle how much I love.
The back is so nice. It's one of those, you know, like the other ones that they made. I think there's an HBK, there's a Diesel, there's an Undertaker. The pink on the denim pops so nicely.
And then I think this is my last. Oh, I got these signed too. I was going to show you these, but yeah. So we used to be huge sneakerheads. I mean, we still have a pretty good collection of sneakers, but at one point we had over 200 pair of sneakers too. So we like to collect a lot of things, but I kept these pink foams, and we took them again to that WrestleCon event, and Seth got them, my husband got them signed, and the Hitman signed them in silver paint pen. So yeah, these are staying in the collection for.
I'm not the biggest Nike collector. I love Nike, but was that an actual release, or are those custom made?
No, yeah, this is an actual release. Yeah, the pink foams. I forget what year they came out. I mean, I stood in line for them back when they used to do lines. Now everything's pretty much a raffle, but yeah, these are an actual release. So I mean, it was just perfect. We just knew we had to get him signed. And then my last thing on the Hitman is Village Brew Company up in Canada did a brew for the Hitman. It was called the Hitman it's Citrus Hibiscus Ale. And so I hit them up whenever they were like done with it. And I was like, can you please send me that tap handle? And they sent me the tap handle for the Hitman Ale. So that's pretty rad.
So you like Bret Hart.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of Bret Hart collectibles.
Mm-hmm.
What item are you missing? What is your holy grail that you are currently looking for?
Like what I want is like out there, but it's one of those things like you said, like you kind of like you see it, and then in the moment you're like, am I really going to spend this amount of money on this? And this is something that doesn't pop up super often. It's an LJN 2-pack, a tag team pack of the Hart Foundation. Like I would love to have one MOC like on the card. Because you can get the loose ones. I mean, finding LJNs in good condition is hard enough anyway, because, the paint is rubbed off. I mean, those things got literally like played with super hard. So I would really love to have a set of Hart Foundation LJNs. I mean, it was like Bret's first figure. And I just feel like I need that in my collection. But I mean, I'm not in any hurry. I'll get it eventually. But it's like every time I've seen them come up, I'm like, oh, you just kind of like see the price tag and you're like, man. It's just one of those things you kind of wait and keep your watch on. So, save search.
Right. Yeah. I mean, my save searches are at the.
I can't even imagine how many notifications you get on eBay.
I have, when they changed from 100 to 200, I filled up the other 100 in 2 days.
Oh my God.
We've gone over your collection. We understand that you like Bret Hart at this point. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your podcast?
So with our podcast, we're about to come up on our actual 100th episode. So we've been doing this for a couple of years now, and it's just kind of evolved over time. I never had any expectations to have a podcast. I started Chick Foley as just like a hobby account. Like literally after I got back from WrestleMania 31 weekend, I just logged in, created this account, which is trying to keep my personal account and my wrestling account, because I didn't want to spam all the people that are just trying to see photos of me and my husband with wrestling stuff that they don't care about. So I started this account, the Chick Foley account. And it just kind of organically started to grow. That was 5 years ago is when I started that account. So it just grew and grew and grew. I met so many awesome people. And then a couple of years ago, my former co-host, he came in and he was like, hey, have you ever thought about having a podcast? He had a Baltimore Ravens podcast, lives in Baltimore. He'd been doing a podcast for a few years. And I was like, no, hell no. Like you alluded to earlier, the internet is a cruel place, and although I can put stuff on Instagram and show up in stories and all of that, it's curated to what I want to do. But when you're putting your voice out there and your opinion and being on a podcast and stuff, it's a whole different level. You're just opening yourself up for criticism and all the things. But my husband was like, you should do it. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You don't like it and you just don't do it anymore. So I decided to do it. And we've been doing it for 2 years, and I love it. We talk about wrestling figures. We have a figure news segment. We talk about the weekend wrestling. We do pay-per-view predictions and stuff like that. So we kind of touch on things. If there's something crazy going on in pop culture, we talk about those types of things and give retro recommendations for the people that are listening to go back in their network and check out and stuff like that. But it's myself. My other co-host, Phil, just had too many commitments, so he had to move on to greener pastures, work and stuff like that. I mean, COVID just kind of took everybody out. So it's my husband, me, and my friend Marco that do the podcast now. And yeah, it's fun. We record on Wednesday nights. Show drops on Thursday. You can find it on all your podcast platforms. It's just the Chick Foley Show, so it's good stuff.
I definitely think that you're one of the pillars of the internet wrestling community. I admire the fact that you're such a big collector, you and your husband. I think it's very cool that you've branched out and done something creative with your podcast. Not a lot of people have an outlet like that where they can really get into their creative side, having to do with something that they love. Mm-hmm. Very cool. And I really enjoyed talking to you about your collection. Before you go, is there anything else you want to mention? Is there anything else you want to shout out?
Yeah, so you can just find me. If you want to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram at Chick Foley. Again, you can listen to our show. Like I said, we have a weekly show. It's at Chick Foley Show. You can go to chickfoley.show.com and get more information on that. And my co-host Marco, he runs our Twitter account at Chick Foley Show on Twitter. So anytime you're trying to connect with us, those are the best avenues.
Yep, and it's a great podcast. So everyone, please check it out. Sheena, it was amazing meeting you like this.
Yeah.
It was amazing talking with you, and I hope we can catch up again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I feel honored to be a part of this. I'm excited to even watch the episodes that you've recorded so far. So keep doing good work, man.
Thank you.
Our next stop is Astral Market, the neon gem of Complex Land. Here you'll find the Showtime Theatre for panels, performances, screenings and special episodes of favorite shows. With new releases from some of the most coveted street brands dropping each day, Astral Market is a must-see, whatever dimension you're coming from. Sign up at complexland.com and be the first to know more.
Next up is a man that needs no introduction when it comes to wrestling figure collecting. He is none other than Matt Cardona.
Let me just cut you off, all right, because I know you're not going to do it the right way. It's always ready. The internet champion, Matt Cardona, a.k.a. the host of the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, a.k.a. the $1,000 Broski, a.k.a. the Michael Jordan of wrestling figure collecting. Now back to you.
I'm honored to have you on. From my knowledge, I know that you are probably the greatest wrestling toy collector in the world, if not one of.
Listen, I say I'm the Michael Jordan. It's a gimmick. It's a catchphrase. I don't think I have the greatest collection in the world. I have a lot of cool pieces. I'll say that. I'm definitely the Indiana Jones of wrestling figure collecting.
I'm personally in awe of your collection because, one, I don't know anything about the toy market, so I'd love to learn more from you, and I want to hear what you have to say. I'm a clothing guy.
Right.
I have a decent collection. I put myself somewhere in the top of the U.S. rankings, but in terms of toys, you're the go-to guy that I would talk to. How long have you been collecting wrestling figures and memorabilia?
Yeah, so as a kid, I was obsessed. Like my earliest memories of childhood is playing with the LJN, the big rubber wrestling figures in the 80s. Of course, I collected my whole life. I collected the merchandise, whether it be T-shirts or foam fingers. But I was a kid, right? I didn't keep stuff. Sometimes my parents wouldn't buy it for me. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't have it, but I always wanted it. And I just never grew out of wrestling. I never grew out of collecting. Of course, there's definitely some times where I was hiding it. You know what I'm saying? Like at one point in high school, literally my closet, you open it up, that's where all my wrestling figures were. I was in the closet with my figures, and it wasn't cool. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't cool to go to the high school wearing a T-shirt. I did it. You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't cool. There was that brief time where I call it like all the 98ers came around. The Attitude Era was cool to wear like DX and NWO, but then they left again. You know what I'm saying? Then it wasn't cool anymore. And I'd be at Toys R Us and I'd be buying figures and I'd be like, can I have a gift receipt, please? Because I didn't want them to think that I was buying them. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't really until I actually met Brian Myers, Kurt Hawkins. We both met in wrestling school when we were 18. And I don't know how it came up exactly, but it was like, wait, you collect wrestling figures too? So do I. And we finally had someone to bond with. Right. You know what I'm saying? And then, of course, like getting into the business, I just didn't give a shit what people in high school thought of me anymore. And I was just collecting everything.
And, once you have that person who's like an enabler,
Right.
Starts to get really ugly. You know,
Oh,
a lot
100%.
of wrestling shirt collectors were either in text threads with people or group chats, and
Right.
everyone's just kind of feeding. And like you see someone else get something, you're like, oh my god, now I need to get it. And I'm
Yeah.
sure it's very similar with the toys.
Yeah, we say it on the podcast, scratch that figure itch. And we were doing that before we even made up the term. You know what I'm saying? It's a legit addiction. Hunting for these figures in the stores, it's the highest of highs when you find something, but it's the lowest of lows when you drive somewhere thinking it's going to be there, hoping it's going to be there, and it's not there. And now, with Toys R Us and stuff being gone, it's even harder. No more KB. It's tough to actually get figures in the wild, so to speak.
So just to stay on this for a second, what brick and mortars do you go to find toys these days?
So Walmart and Target, that's it. And they don't really have anything, to be honest. And their websites suck. Their pre-order systems on their website suck. Like they'll, Mattel will say, oh, we're dropping the Legends line, Target.com only, but they won't tell you what time. They'll drop it like 3 a.m. You miss out. You know what I'm saying? Then they'll cancel your order anyway. So it's like, it's really tough for Walmarts and Targets. But, when I was on the road all the time, I'd have to get Tanner or food or new socks. And then, of course, I'd always check the figures, So I was able to find a lot of things that way because I'd be in different cities, different Walmarts, different Targets, and I was just finding stuff left and right.
So when did you actually start watching wrestling?
So my earliest memories of childhood, I was born in 1985, were watching wrestling. I don't know the first match. I don't know the first figure. My dad claims that he took me to WrestleMania 2, so I wouldn't have even been 1 year old yet. There's pictures of me wearing this ginormous Hulk Hogan tank top. I think you actually tracked it down for me because I wanted the same tank top.
Mm-hmm.
I was just always obsessed with it. I never grew out of it. Like I said, a lot of my friends, of course, in the early 90s with the wrestling buddies and superstars and the ice cream, everyone loved it. And then people stopped. And I just kept watching it. And whether, it sounds crazy, but with the wrestling figures, those were like my friends. That's how I was keeping my love of wrestling alive because I couldn't talk about it at school with people. You know what I'm saying? So I had to create more federations with my guys and really live out my dreams with the figures.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely share those memories. I definitely didn't continue on with the toy collecting, but as a child, it was something that I lived for. Like anytime I got a grade, anytime I did anything good or anytime I accomplished anything in sports or whatever, I'd be granted a toy or a wrestling.
Right. Yes.
And that was basically it. And so like I could never keep up with some of these people's collections who, they buy one series all at once. And right. I couldn't do that. I would get a good grade on Friday. I go to Toys R Us. I get 1 or 2 things.
Sure.
Slowly but surely, I have like 50 or 60 of these things. Half of them were on card. And then my mom sold them at a garage sale when I was 12.
Oh, no.
So now I only have the ones that are at my dad's house because my parents were
right.
So I have very few. Really pissed me off. I forgave her. Who was your favorite wrestler?
It really depends, like, on the era. Of course, Hulk Hogan, right? I mean, he was larger than life, a superhero come to life. Then guys like the Macho Man and the Ultimate Warrior, the bright colors and just so charismatic. And then once I, kept watching, like Shawn Michaels was the first heel or bad guy I liked. And then, Edge, Christian, and Jericho were the quote-unquote smaller guys. I'm like, well, if these guys can make it, then I maybe I have a shot, because for the longest time it was these jacked up, Ico Pro guys, you know what I'm saying? So for guys like Edge and Christian and Jericho, if they were, succeeding at a high level, I'm like, oh, maybe I have a shot at this.
Yeah, and I mean, there was definitely that shift, and it's great because we have gotten to see a ton of talent that maybe don't look like King Kong Bundy,
right,
or any of these monsters. So
LJ and King Kong Bundy, I think, really could kill somebody if you threw that King Kong Bundy at someone's head. I'm not even joking, no exaggeration. I think it would murder somebody.
I held one the other day. It's like 5 pounds.
Yeah.
As you can see, Matt Cardona has compiled one of the great wrestling toy collections in the entire world. In addition to owning every LJN and Hasbro that was ever available to the public, Matt has also gotten his hands on some incredibly rare prototypes. That includes the famed Greg the Hammer Valentine Rhythm and Blues 2-Up figure, the Tugboat 2-Up figure, as well as the LJN Macho Man Randy Savage resin prototype.
He also has the heavily sought after Hasbro mailaways, Ringmasters, and the muscle figures, not to mention an incredible collection of WWF Bend-ems. And it doesn't stop there. In addition to WWF, Matt has an incredible WCW and rare Japanese toy collection. On top of all that, Matt's also a massive Disney and Star Wars collector. I'd estimate that Matt's toy collection is worth roughly $1 million, and the prices of these items are only going up.
Right now I live in Orlando, Florida. I lived in New York my whole life, a couple different places, but New York's where I grew up. And I never really was able to display the collection. You know what I'm saying? Because I was living in apartments. I just never had the real estate, so to speak. Right. So when I moved to Orlando, I'm like, you know what? I'm getting a toy room. I'm turning one room into a toy room, and that's going to be amazing. I'm going to have all my figures on display. And it was great at first, but then like I just kept buying more and buying more and buying more and going back and buying things that I always thought were garbage. Like, oh, these are really cool now. Now I love them, right? And then it got to the point where you should see my toy room right now. I was explaining this to you. You literally, first of all, you have to do the Scott Hall walk to even get into it because like the door will hit like a case, a display case. But there's just stuff all over the place because I'm like, oh, I'll open it up and put it away tomorrow. But when you do that every day for 6 months, they're just stacked up on the floor. You know what I'm saying? So I did pick out some of my favorites for you. And it will start with the LJNs right here. It looks like a typical LJN, but I wish I could really, you just got to believe me here that you can't bend the legs because it's resin. It's a resin. This is a prototype. This is like what they would use for catalogs or bring it to Toy Fair. Mm-hmm. So it is slightly different. So it has some stars on the boots. I don't know if you can see that there. This is a resin prototype of Macho Man. Now, I typically don't collect prototypes of people who were released because, like, for instance, they made this Macho Man, but he's one of my favorites. So there, like, I have a George Animal Steel where the body hair is painted because the one that was released, it's molded on hair. You can feel it, but it's not painted. So I have a couple like that. But I've had the opportunity to get other prototypes that I've passed on because these things, you're not going to find these on eBay. You might, there's a couple on there, but 9 times out of 10, they're on these underground Facebook groups or message boards, or like you said, like you're literally text messaging people that you have no idea who they are, if they're trustworthy.
Right.
But that's how you get these deals made.
How many of those exist in the world?
So in theory, I mean, there's probably like, let's just say 5 hand-painted prototypes per LJN figure. But like I said, they're not thinking, oh my God, you know what? In 30 years, 2 guys are going to be talking on Zoom about this. You know what I'm saying? So they're like thrown in the garbage or destroyed, right? Or who knows? Or they're given to their kid to play with. Right. So luckily I was able to get this from an ex-LJN employee who just recently over the years, I don't know if he had them in his garage or his basement. It's like, you know what? I have these prototypes. I should probably see if they're worth any money. And then of course they are.
You sniffed it out.
Right. So there's a couple things like that. Like I said, Macho Man is my favorite. This is a Hasbro. This is actually what started all my prototypes. This is a JCPenney exclusive Macho Man. It's from a JCPenney Christmas catalog. I believe it's 1990. It was supposed to come with the Hasbro ring, this green Macho Man, because if you remember, the regular one is orange trunks, and the same Hulk Hogan. So it's in the catalog, and it's shown. But when you got it, you know, Christmas morning or whatever, it was just the same old orange Macho Man. So it never came out. But this is the one from the ad. Now, there's a lot of things you can't see unless you're up close. It's all hand painted. And on the back, there's no copyright molding onto the back. So I never thought I would, you know, cross that bridge. Mm-hmm. And once I got this, boy, did I cross it.
Right. And I'm sure that's a very deep hole to get into with the...
That's the thing. So there's a lot of things that I have bought and then have resold and that's the rule I made to myself. So I made a rule where, do I need the Bushwhackers hand-painted prototype if I have the real Bushwhacker figure? Like, I don't. So I sold the Bushwhackers. So anybody who never came out, those are the ones I really seek. And including this one. This is, I've told the story many times. This is Rhythm and Blues, Greg the Hammer Valentine. I believe it's a 1990 or 1991 WWF magazine. The Rockers are on the cover. I know that. You flip that front cover, and there's the Coming to Toys R Us, the tag team set. And it's Bushwhackers, it's Demolition, it's Rockers, and Rhythm and Blues. This is no internet. This is before internet, right? So I'm taking my mom, bringing me to Toys R Us after Toys R Us, and there's never Rhythm and Blues. You later find out it was unreleased, never came out, blah, 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 blah. So years ago, there was one that popped up on eBay. I bid, this was probably in like 2012-ish. I bid $12,500, and I didn't win. I lost. I lost. Yeah, it went for $12,600. Okay, so keep that number in mind. So then, I did actually know the guy who outbid me for it. He let me hold it once. If you like Google Greg Valentine, Matt Cardona, or Zach Ryder, you can see the picture of it. But then the story behind that was it wasn't this Greg. It was like this is another resin figure. The one this guy had was a plastic, like mass produced, and he said that his grandfather worked for Hasbro and he had it in his collection all these years. So it was a little scuffed up, but not really. But the story kind of checked out. And then a couple years after that, another Greg Valentine popped up, and like this part of the arm, like the elbow joint, was not broken. It just wasn't connected, like the pin was missing. And then a couple of years later, I ended up buying that for $8,000. I'm like, it was after this Macho Man. I'm like, all right, well, I need to track down a Greg. I need to track down one of the two. So I got the one for $8,000. This is ridiculous money, I know. $8,000 for this Greg the Hammer Valentine. And then maybe 6 months or so after that, I was on one of these Facebook groups, and a Hasbro employee, an ex-Hasbro employee, he posted like this bird's eye view of this box that he had of figures. And I could just spot Greg's foot like a hawk. I'm like, wait a minute. That's Greg. That's Greg the Hammer Valentine. Of course, he sends me more pictures, and it's the one from the Toys R Us ad. Everything matches up. I'm like, holy shit. Like, I need this. And at the time, the guy didn't quite know what he had. He kept calling it, like on all his lists, Honky Tonk Man. And I'm like, this guy has no clue. This guy has no clue. I'm going to get this steal of a lifetime. Turns out, the more guys who got involved, he knew what he had. And I bought this is the first time I bought something as an investment. I bought this entire lot of pre-production and prototype figures from this guy for $43,000. But let me say this. I kept what I wanted and sold everything else and made my money back and then some. So I ended up making out in the deal, but it was, it's like anything. You need to know what to invest in. See, I think so. This I'm definitely the most proud of. Like, am I the biggest fan of Greg the Hammer Valentine? Absolutely not. Nothing against Greg, but to me, this figure has like the backstory. It was in that Toys R Us ad. You knew about it, but you couldn't get it. So to have this, and then so there's something in the prototype world. It's called a 2-up. Okay. And this is the 2-up of Greg the Hammer Valentine that I got in this same lot. So with this is, back in the day, there were no computers, right? They were literally hand drawing these and then making them 2-up the size, right? Hence the name 2-up. That's where they get all the detailing down and the paint app down, and then they would shrink it down. So these things, I've never seen another one of this, but there's like, in theory, there's one of everybody. But these things should be destroyed. They're not meant to be sold. You know what I'm saying? But luckily, this guy kept it. So when I bought this, I was offered $25,000 for it, and I turned it down. Okay.
So with that said, can you tell me like the current market rate?
So
regular and the 2-up? Okay.
So I guess really I'm making the price here, right? So I know I was offered $25,000 for it a couple years ago. However, in a Howard Finkel voice, remember I told you, what's that?
Keep in mind 2020, where I've watched $200 shirts jump to $200 shirts.
Yes.
Very quickly.
Yes. So the Greg the Hammer Valentine that once I got this one, I didn't need the broken arm one anymore. Like was the paint application a little different? Yes. It kind of matched this 2-up more. But I didn't need both. I had the real one from the Toys R Us ad. Even though this one was real as well, it wasn't the one. So I sold that and I had trouble selling it. I sold it for $8,000, just washed my hands of it, made no profit. Okay. So that was maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. That guy just sold it for $20,000. So if that's worth 20, this is more than 25.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then I also have this, which I got later on. This is the Greg the Hammer Valentine. It's called a polyurethane Greg the Hammer Valentine. So this was one of my shadiest deals ever. And by shady, I mean like literally I'm exchanging emails with some guy, right? And he tells me that he has a tugboat. Now, for those who don't know, they released typhoon and an earthquake, natural disaster. He's telling me he has tugboat. I'm thinking, this motherfucker just has typhoon. He's wasting my time, right? Sure enough, he sends me the pictures. It's tugboat. Like this, unpainted, polyurethane. I'm like, holy shit. And he's like, I also have Greg Valentine. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And he shows me the pictures and we make this deal. And one of the parts of the deal was that he would fly from New York to Orlando and hand deliver the figures and get a tour of my toy room. That's how he would make the deal. So I'm trying to explain to my girlfriend, like, Eddie from New York's coming down. Never met the guy. We're letting him into the house. He's going to know where we live. But sure enough, he had all these figures. They come like in pieces, almost like Legos. So I could take this apart right now. And they're all in like Ziplocs that say like Greg Valentine, tugboat. So it was like literally like you had history on my kitchen counter. I picked out which ones I wanted. But now it's super cool that I have like all the versions of Greg. And if anybody wants this one, it's for sale. Hit me up. But
how are you selling it for?
You got to privately message me. But I do have the tugboat like this. And then a lot of things, especially nowadays with 3D printing and stuff like that. And I'm sure in the shirt business, you see a lot of fakes and counterfeits, you know what I'm saying? And it's people are getting really good at faking this stuff. But especially if you're looking at it in a picture. But if you have it in your hand and you know what you're looking at and you have something real to compare it to, I can tell what's fake and what's not. You know what I'm saying? So there for years, there was a 2-up tugboat online. People were just like saying fake, 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 fake. And at the time, I was naive to. I'm like, oh, this is fake. Good job, though, fake. But then once I got the little tugboat, I was like, let me try to find that picture again. Found it. I was comparing like everything, the laces, the creases in the pants. I'm like, no, this is real. This is real. I found the guy. He's in my phone now as Tugboat Guy. And we made a smooth transaction. And now I brought it home. And then I proved to everybody with comparison pictures and stuff like that it's the real deal. Yes.
Is there a holy grail white whale that's floating out there that you're currently searching for?
Yes. So, okay. So the final series of Hasbro. So Hasbro lost the license in like 95. And there was always this rumored orange card set. It was rumored for years to have like Diesel, Jeff Jarrett, Men on a Mission. But it's just rumor, right? For years. You always see the customs and stuff like that, but always rumors. And then the heads popped up for these. And I was like, whoa, like that's pretty cool. Like the heads popped up. A couple months after that, the drawings popped up because back in the day, it wasn't computerized. It was all hand drawn by this guy, Ron Rudat. There was a couple other artists too. So the drawings popped up after the heads and they all matched up. So I was able to get my hands on the Diesel drawing. And then I was also able to get my hands on the 2-up of the Diesel head.
Oh, a psycho collector in the shirt world showed me that version of Diesel all over print shirt.
Really?
Spiky hair.
That's pretty cool.
I never seen it. You've seen the regular one. The black. I'd never seen that. My jaw hit the floor. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. So yeah, very cool.
Yeah. So my white whale, if it even exists, is if it made it to the prototype stage.
I see.
So in that set, there was also, according to the artwork, there was going to be a repaint of like a babyface Doink because they made the heel Doink. There was also going to be a USA Lex Luger because they already made the Narcissist. So those were easy to paint, to fix. And those popped up on eBay a couple years ago, the Doink and the Luger. And last second, I lost the Luger.
You showed me that.
Yeah. The Luger went for $8,000 or maybe I put in 8,000, went for like 8,100. And I was suspecting like this guy is buying this just because he knows I'm bidding and he's going to try to flip it on me. Sure enough, he did.
Yep.
But I didn't bite. It's unfortunate, but I'm glad I lost that Luger because once I lost that Luger, I felt like, okay, well, I'm not going to have everything. So it kind of forced me to get rid of like the Bushwhackers, the Rockers, other guys that I had, but I didn't really need because I have the real version. Why do I need the hand painted? And let someone else enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? Why? I'll keep my Greg. or my Macho Man, my Tugboat, or stuff like that. But let someone else enjoy the rockers. Maybe someone out there, you know, loves Shawn Michaels, and now they have the rockers prototype. I don't need it. Let somebody else have it, and you know, be the showcase of their collection.
And I really respect that you've gotten to that point. You know, like I have trouble sometimes. Like I'll put my final 8 that I need, and I'll get through them. And then while I'm waiting to get the other 6, I find like 30 other shirts I needed. You know, and those prices that you're throwing out are insane, by the way. I don't know.
Insane. Total. It's ridiculous.
Like the highest I've ever heard anyone say that they'll spend on a wrestling shirt was $3,000.
Right.
And that's nowhere near what these toys are going for. And these things
I had
where
I have on the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast YouTube channel, we did the history of LJN figures, and we actually brought all our figures out. I showed all my prototypes, and I showed off in the video. I had a naked Miss Elizabeth that I had. A couple of the LJN sculptors, I think they made like 3 or 4, maybe 4 or 5, just to kind of pop themselves. You know what I'm saying? Full blown naked, like cubic. I knew I had it, and in this LJN video, we showed it off. We talked about it, but we always blurred it out. Like, still, it's weird. Yeah, it's still weird. And Macho Man would be pissed if he knew I had it.
Of course.
But after that, somebody contacted me, and they wanted to buy it, and they wanted to buy a couple of the pieces I had. And the way I was able to price it out, that I sold that Miss Elizabeth for $45,000.
Jeez.
So I don't show my things off to show off. I show them off for the fans to see this stuff. You know what I'm saying? No one ever saw this Greg 2-up before I posted it. Right. No one ever saw a Tugboat before I posted it, you know? So stuff like that, I want the people to see it.
Right. And I come across that a lot. There's the people who troll, like when I'll post something for my personal collection, they'll be like, oh, like, why are you posting that if it's not for sale? And it's like, okay, well, 500 other people just put it on their save search on eBay because they had no clue it existed.
Exactly.
Where does it end? So, like, where do you think the toy market is going? You think it's just going to keep going?
I think it is going to keep going. I think right now we're living in a time, and I'm sure it's the same for shirts, where these kids have money. So this is the big thing that we found with our podcast. We just thought that we'd have the audience of current adult collectors. We didn't realize that we'd be bringing people back who are like, oh my God, you know what? Like, I loved getting the head shrinkers for Christmas that year. Let me relive that moment and get the head shrinkers, or insert whatever wrestler, or vice versa. Like something that happened to me. My Christmas, sorry, Mom and Dad, it was ruined when I didn't get that Hasbro 123 kid, and now I'm able to get it. You know what I'm saying? So you take that, you turn that volume up. There's people getting things they never got, things that they did have, and now they're reliving it, or, you know, their figures are all beat up. Now they have a mint on card. Right. It's like you're collecting all this stuff. Like about a year and a half ago, I've been trying to get the Hasbros. I love them all. Mine are, I'm a big let them breathe guy. I like having them out of the box, out of the package. People are like, it's worth less that way. I don't care. Do I buy things to resell sometimes as an investment? I do, but most of the time I buy it for me. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want it in the package, but the Hasbros, something about those Hasbros, I wanted them in the package, but I didn't have the patience to put it all together one by one. I needed to find somebody who had them all. And I found somebody who had them all, and he was coming to Disney World on vacation with his family. He was driving down, and he brought them all. We made a deal in the gas station inside Disney World. I didn't even look at the figures inside because I was just taking these boxes out of his car. But then sure enough, they were all there. But like the price I spent then seemed like not ridiculous, but I wasn't getting a deal. You know, let's just say that. But it wasn't like I wasn't getting a deal. It wasn't a steal, but it was fair. But now looking back, oh my God, did I get a deal? Because in the year and a half, the prices have just been jacked up.
Right. I don't know what happened in 2020, like something around when COVID hit and people sitting indoors and then money getting pumped into people and whatever it was, people just being bored. Things started going crazy. I'm watching shirts that I have posts from the end of 2019 where people are talking all kinds of shit because I'm posting shirts for $50, $250. And now they're raffling them and pocketing $600 to $700.
Right. It's pretty insane. And the shirts is something that I've dabbled in, of course, growing up. I love the shirts. And I collect. I still have a lot of my shirts that I had it in high school, stuff like that. And even through you and your site, like seeing all these shirts again, like I got like itchy for them and buying them. And then you're someone who wears the shirts. I wasn't even wearing them. So it's like, why do I need all these shirts in my closet? You know what I'm saying? 'Cause I'm not wearing them.
That's how I was at the beginning of this year. I was like, why do I have 5 drawers of wrestling shirts?
Yeah.
And I started working from home full time, and now this is just what I wear every day. Now I'm just dressing really well for work. Like if I go out to a meeting, I put on a polo or something. But for the most part, this is me. This is just what I wear now.
Stuff I'm trying to look. I also have like there. This is a Jack specific employee edition. There's only one of 25 made. I don't know if you can see the sticker there. So Ric Flair. What's very special about this, like you turn it and like you can see the back of his robe. So this was Jack specific. Cool. So this was Jack's had the license after Hasbro from like 96 to maybe like 2009-ish. And this guy, Jeremy Padower, he actually runs Jazzwares, which make the AEW figures. And this guy, he changed, in my opinion, he changed the game of not just wrestling figures, but wrestling. Because before that, legends and classic superstars, they weren't, you couldn't go into a store and buy an Ultimate Warrior shirt or a Macho Man shirt. And he had this idea, like, how come we're not honoring the legends? So he thought of this line called the Classic Superstars line. And that's what kind of brought Ultimate Warrior back to WWE, Bret Hart, stuff like that. And that's what spawned, like, you can get socks with the Ultimate Warrior on them. I have boxer shorts with the Ultimate Warrior on. It's all, in my opinion, it's all because of this man that now, like, you can go to WWEshop.com and get whatever. There's probably a Bam Bam Bigelow shirt, probably a Bushwhacker shirt. It's crazy. And I think it all spawned from this guy. And he also had the knowledge, like, hey, let's make things super hard to get. Let's make an employee edition. So like, and these 25 that we'll give out, I hope 20 of them end up on eBay.
Right.
Because it spikes interest in the line. And
it also, when things start to leak like that, that's what gets people into collecting.
Yes.
And that's kind of where we are now is, you start one place, you hear about another thing, it fuels you to keep going. And that's wrestling collecting.
Yeah, it's just a wild, wild thing. And, we talk about all the time. It's not just figures that I like. I like obscure, like, merch stand catalog items. So, like, one of my weirdest pieces right here are these Ultimate Warrior, like, Bret Hart style sunglasses.
How'd you get those?
But, see, that's one thing about you. You always send me all this weird stuff. And, like, sometimes I've never seen it before. And this, I think, was one of those items. Now, this is very weird because it has, like, the old, like, WWF logo, but this came out in, like, 96-ish. Yeah. I've done some research. So I don't know if they were making this in, like, 92 before he left, and then they just had extra, and then for 96 when he came back, because that's when they had the little square in the WWF logo, and it's kind of tilted.
I got those in a pile with a Bret Hart pair with the black and the pink.
Yes.
And then the Atom Bomb glasses.
Yes. Yeah, so like at this time in my life, like there was always so much things that I wanted, but like I didn't have a job. I was a kid, so like 9 times out of 10, I didn't get it, and I'd always have like a mental note of things I wanted. Even to this day, one of the things I'm looking for, I'm a big foam guy. This is one of my number one foam items. It's the Lawrence Taylor WrestleMania 11 foam finger that I've only seen twice in my life. When I got this, it was the first time I ever saw it, and then another one popped up afterwards. This is just super cool because it's something that like I didn't even know existed. They must have just sold it at WrestleMania because they always showed like the hat and the shirt and the football, but they never like said, oh, we have the foam finger for sale. Not that I know of at least. So when stuff like that pops up and like you talk about save searches, you need those things. I live for those things. So like some things are super generic, like WWF foam. We're like, okay, you'll probably get the same old shit, but you never know what's going to pop up.
Right. And I have very weird ones. I have save searches with spelling errors.
Yeah.
I have all kinds of tricky things. Starcade is a big one. Not a lot of people know it has 2 R's.
Yes.
So you got to do both save searches.
eBay is it's a dangerous place. It's a dangerous place. But I do find a lot of stuff there. Most of my super rare stuff I find from like underground people or private collectors, but you never know what you're going to find on eBay. Like, that's you got to live by those safe searches.
Right.
I mean, one thing that was super cool, obviously being a wrestler, it was having your own wrestling figures through Jax and Mattel. That was cool. But then recently we were able to make Brian Myers and I make our own action figures, which was super cool. I have it right here, actually. from Super 7. It's the most detailed figure that I've ever had. And the best part is like, so they sent us the prototype, and like usually, you know, if Mattel makes your figure or Jakks, like you see it when it's done, and all right, well, that's a good job. But with this, I can be like, no, the shade of the silver on the boot needs to be darker, or I said I need to be more jacked, or as you know, like you can do whatever you want. And it's so cool being on the other side, because it's almost like fantasy booking. You know what I'm saying? You're like fantasy booking figures for so many years, even as a kid. I'm like, oh, I wish they would have done this, or I wish they would have done that. And now to be like in the driver's seat and to have these like business calls with this toy company about making our own figures, it's just so rewarding, and it's so much fun. You know, it's a lot of work. You know, I'm literally like taking my gear and like being like, oh, the logo should be bigger here. But that's like, I want it to be as perfect as possible if I have any input. Yeah.
I'm sure even with your $40,000 to $50,000 toys you might have, the toys of you are probably incredibly important, and I'm sure you have every single one that's ever been made.
Oh, I think so. I mean, there might be some weird variants out there that I don't know, but I try very, very hard to have. I'm a psychopath, so like I'll have one in the package of me, then one out of the package, then like one out of the package, like in a Ziploc bag put away, then one in the package, like just in case the one in package on the display like falls over. Like I'm a complete psycho about it, but that's what you got to do. You know, there are certain times where like I just recently I found out there was a variant to one of my Jakks figures, and I still can't find like an extra one on eBay. Like I found one in the package, but I haven't found one that I could open and have loose out of the package. And it's like, this is me, and I can't find it.
So assuming, or not assuming, but with the chance that that psycho who has that is watching this, can you tell us how to get in contact with you?
Yeah, just find my social media, hit me up. What I'm looking for, it's this, let me see what it's called. I think it's called Adrenaline. I'm looking at my figures over here. It's myself, Kurt Hawkins, and I'm wearing white long tights. And there's a version of it where it doesn't say my name on the butt. So it's kind of hard to tell if it's in the package, because they kind of like dumbed down the deco on the second run. And then also like on the side of the pants, it has my logo in purple. And the correct version has like black little studs on the gear, and the other version has no studs, which is very hard to, unless you're really looking for it. Like, who's going to see, like, I wonder if they, on the second run, they kept the studs on. You know what I'm saying? So it's not something I realized until 10 years later.
Wow. The toy world just blows my mind. The toy world is so deep. You're clearly the expert when it comes to this stuff.
I'm trying, man. And you know what? You know, you're always learning more. You know, you're always learning something new, or something that you thought you knew, you find out it's wrong. And that's the beauty of this, is like every day you find something out, big or small, that can help you, you know, grow your collection or grow the community. And you're doing so much for the wrestling community, everything that you have for sale, like literally wrestling for sale. And it's just people who go to that Instagram, and it brings up nostalgic feelings. And then maybe they're not buying the most expensive shirt, but maybe they're buying like, maybe the shirt they really want is only $30, but it gets them back in. So like, I respect, you know, accounts like you so much, because it's such a huge part of our fandom, is like those nostalgic feelings, and seeing your page, whether you're buying the shirt or not, just, you know, makes us feel like kids again.
Thank you. That's the ultimate goal. So hearing you say that means a lot to me.
If you like the wrestling figures, if not, give it a shot. But it's called the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast. And if you are really bored and really want to get crazy, every Wednesday there's a spin-off podcast called the Figure Wrestling Federation, where Brian Myers and I, we've been doing it for about 2 months now, we rebook the Attitude Era using figures. But if you're listening, it's just like we're storytelling and telling the finishes, the matches, and the storylines, and cutting promos. I got a pretty good Scott Steiner promo. But then we do figure photography posted on the Instagram, and it's pretty ridiculous. Like, you know, we had a draft, which is on YouTube. If you go to youtube.com/MajorWPod, it was a real draft. And we have, it gets intense. It gets like, we literally just had a trade, and then we had to, like, I had to send Brian one of my figures. He had to send me his, because we made a real trade. It gets wild. It's a lot of fun. So check those out. And then if you want to see me wrestle, just recently on AEW, hopefully soon, I'll be wrestling all over the place. Just follow me on social media at Matt Cardona.
Great. Matt, thank you so much for joining me. I'll let you get back to your night.
Thanks, bro.
And
Appreciate
we'll
it.
catch you again soon.
Awesome.